The time has come to pay tribute to those horror hosts that came before me.
Pain has a face. Allow me to show it to you.
Oh, what's up, gang? Guess who's back? Eric Harrison here on the Death Twitch. Damn, I missed you guys. I missed you so much. I wish I could just come out there and give each one of you a hug. One of those real creepy hugs where I hang on for too long and you can feel the boner in my pants. Over the line. But anyway, just to sum things up, I missed you guys, missed making videos. But we're back, and this time around, before we jump back into some more reviews, I actually want to pay tribute to those horror hosts that came before me. So, American Scary from 2006.
Ghoulardi, Dr. Ulrich, Dr. Free, Dr. Sarcophagus, Dr. Gangrene, Dr. Lucifer, Dr. Chuck, Dr. Morbius, Neil Gaiman, Big Chuck and Houlihan, Dr. Little Jack, Joe Bob Freer, Baron Bob Wolfstein, Halloween Jack, Stella, Cecil Fleet, Grave Jack, Nathan Morton, The Ghoul, Bob Wilson, Count Gore, Yes, and Ghoul, Professor Grimm.
Second verse, want to hear another verse, huh? What is in this verse, huh? All dressed up and I'm ready to go. Gotta get the time to make the midnight show. Don't know what I'll do and I don't know what I'll say, but when I hit the stage, I'm ready to play. All dressed up and I'm ready to go. Gotta get the time to make the midnight show. Don't know what I'll do and I don't know what I'll say, but when I hit the stage, I'm ready to play.
Oh, you want me to stop? Well, that's what I like, a good strong signal.
American Scary is a documentary from 2006, and it was directed by Hudgens and Sandy Clark, and it kind of tells you the story about the freaking horror host that used to exist on TV. Started about in the 1950s and went up till now, because they still exist. They just don't quite exist on the medium that they used to. So one day, a long time ago, I don't know, a few years back, I was searching YouTube for some horror movies and saw something called American Scary. I read a little bit about the description. It was a documentary about the horror host, and I was like, yep, I gotta watch this. So I did, and it's kind of cheesy. You can tell it's a very kind of low-budget, independent documentary, but it's packed full of all this information about stuff that I didn't even know. A lot of these hosts, I knew some of them. I was familiar with Vampira, I was familiar with Elvira, you know, I was familiar with some of these people, but who knew that there was like just such a culture? It's like a counterculture, or it's like this underground culture of horror lovers, horror hosts, and that is something I can definitely relate to, because I do consider myself a horror host. Now, I don't wear a silly costume, I don't put on a persona, I am just me, but I still consider myself a horror host, and I was inspired by others that came before me. Now, so yeah, this documentary, like I said, introduced me to a whole slew of stuff that I had no idea, but it's very fascinating. This is one of those movies, or it's a documentary that's definitely aimed at like a very, I would call the demographic horror nerds. Like, you have to be a real horror nerd to kind of get into this movie. So I watched it and I find it fascinating. It's a real fun little flick. I don't think everybody's going to get into it, but it was right up my alley. It's kind of like candy for me, because I like documentaries, first of all. I like horror. If I can combine that shit, it's perfect. I love the combination of documentary and horror. Now, so let's jump a little bit deeper into the subject matter of the horror host. So, I guess it was something that developed around the 50s. I think Vampira is considered to be one of the very first horror hosts, and then right after her came Zacherley. These people, like, first of all, Vampira is such a fucking badass because she's fucking sexy, she's gothic, she's dark, she's sensual, she's hardcore. She was keeping that shit metal way back in the fucking 50s when people were still doing the sock bop and, you know, wearing poodle skirts and shit. Vampire was like, fuck that, dude, I'm going dark. And so they put her on TV to host horror movies, and it was a hit. People loved it. I mean, it was, you know, something that you didn't get to see. You didn't necessarily get to see people that were dressed and acted and behaved the way she did back in the 50s. So that was like kind of like a little freak show for the television. It was like freak show. I'm sure everybody tuning in was like just to see her and what would she do next.
What I need is a vampire cocktail to settle my nerves. It'll not only settle them, it will petrify. A vampire cocktail. You like it? It hates you.
My first introduction to horror hosts was Elvira. Elvira was fucking huge in the 80s. She's still huge now. She's still going around doing her thing. And she still looks damn good doing it too. Elvira was it in the 80s. She just blew up. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing Elvira. She was in movies. She was on TV, commercials, everywhere you looked. Elvira is like, looks like Vampira in the sense that she's got the dark, Mistress of the Dark look going on, but she's got this silly, corny, like Valley Girl personality. And I think that's a funny mixture, so that's one of the reasons why Elvira was such a big hit.
Is this movie weird or what?
What?
I mean, it was sort of like Gilligan's Island meets Hogan's Heroes. Now I know why they called it She-Demons. It was hell watching it.
After that, my next introduction to horror hosts was probably the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt. The damn freaking little puppet with the never-ending onslaught of bad puns.
I hope you're hungry for tonight's murderous menu. It concerns a man who's discovered that the fastest way to a woman's heart is with a pickaxe.
But after the Crypt Keeper, the one that came and influenced me the most, the person that I consider responsible for the fact that this channel exists and that I do what I do, who inspired me to be this guy, is the one and only Joe Bob Briggs from Monster Vision and Drive-In Theater. So yeah, Saturday nights back in the 90s, I was in front of the TV, beer in hand, watching Monster Vision. Joe Bob Briggs is the fucking man, and I'm so sad that they canceled Monster Vision. Shame on you, TNT. You had a good thing going. As far as I'm aware, I think he might have been the last horror host on television. That might not be correct, but it was the last one that I was aware of. Joe Bob Briggs, whose real name is John Bloom. Joe Bob Briggs is kind of like an invention. It's an alter ego of his. He's the silly Texan that sits around talking a lot of shit about movies, about he likes to push boundaries. He just seemed to be always overflowing with horror trivia. He seemed to always know everything about everything, and that was one of the most fascinating things that I would watch Monster Vision, because he just had all the facts that you would ever want to know about anything. It was like Wikipedia on TV back then.
I'm sure I'll get bombarded now by all the geeks who run the Friday the 13th websites. I say that with the utmost affection and respect. I love you guys, but I'm sure I screwed up there somewhere. Okay, time for part 6. This is the movie that asks the question, why should we even try to kill him anymore? You know, Jason's always had the ability to levitate himself all over Crystal Lake, jumping out of refrigerators if he has to, in constant search of teen veal. And in this one, nothing can kill him. Not a thing. Metal gate post through his head, no problem for Jason.
Like I said, yeah, he liked to push boundaries. He was a little bit of a rebel. He was a bit of a troublemaker, but he was a cinephile, a horror lover, all the way to his core. And that was something you can see in him as he presented these movies on Monster Vision. He loved talking about movies. And so yeah, this is the guy I feel is absolutely responsible, because it was sitting there watching Monster Vision on Saturday nights what made me go, so I need to do this. I want to do this. I want to host horror movies. I want to talk about them. I want to share my love for this with other people. Joe Bob inspired that. So anyway, about the documentary, yeah, there's interview with tons of people, all the horror hosts that were involved, other celebrities, just other people that were influenced by this whole, subculture. It's a very low budget documentary. The interview footage, it looks about as cheap as the do-it-yourself public access horror host clips that they're talking about, but that's kind of gives a charm to it. But I do think this is one of the reasons why some people won't be into this documentary, because it looks cheap. It's not a high budget, it's not Hollywood. This was somebody with a camera, and they just set a camera down and interviewed a lot of people, like a lot of people. you watch a documentary like American Scary, and I got to like learn a lot about kind of the heritage of what I do. So let's go ahead and rate it for a documentary. I think it's great. It's one of those movies where it's like, it's an Eric special. I enjoy it. I think it's pretty awesome. You would have to be a real horror nerd to get into it, so I don't think some of you out there would really enjoy it, but still, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I like it. So if you really want to know and take a look back and learn a thing or two about where this all began, I mean, they cover everything from through the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, up till now. Horror hosts still exist. Like I said, they kind of migrated off the television, unfortunately, onto the internet and stuff, so they can still be found out there. If you're really interested in learning about that, I highly recommend it, so check it out. Elvira. Elvira. Anybody remember that song? Was that song written about Elvira, the Mistress of the Dark, or what the fuck? Was there another Elvira? I never heard that name before until Elvira. How many times can I say Elvira? Elvira. Elvira. You're getting your fucking money's worth here.